Hola, bom dia. Munson here from expatsportugal.com with the Good Morning Portugal show. Good morning to you. It would ordinarily be Ask Anything About Portugal Wednesday. We've had a little bit of a reshuffle, very serious subject we're tackling today. The show is called Climate Change, and we'll be talking to a former climate change, well, I don't, this is what other people might call him, climate change denier, who thought that it was just a bunch of hippies getting upset about stuff that he didn't have to concern himself with too much. This is Douglas Hughes, but he's had a complete road to Damascus experience, a real turnaround. He's very concerned now about climate change, and Claire, similarly concerned, is joining him. So we'll have Doug and Claire after we've spoken to Paul from Fiduciary Wealth Management this morning in Gibraltar. Good morning to you, Paul.
Good morning, Carl. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. Lovely to speak to you. How's life in Gibraltar this morning?
Well, fantastic. I mean, everyone's fully vaccinated. No one's zero infected individuals. Sun is out. Yeah.
All is well in the world.
They'll open up for tourism on the 17th of May. I think we expect quite a lot of interest from the UK because it's one of the 3 destinations given a green light for travel. So we are just awaiting our first tourist for over a year.
I can imagine, Paul. It sounds like the leader who I saw the leader of Gibraltar, or heard them on the radio. Very impressive character. And they may well be there with garlands, like, when you arrive in Hawaii. People will be so glad to see tourists again, won't they, in Gibraltar?
Absolutely. I mean, we used to have 10 million visitors a year, and that has devastated our economy like all other economies, right? But we were dependent on tourism, one of our pillars of the economy. So no, I think we are ready, and we are just waiting to turn things around as soon as the global economy unlocks. But in the meantime, 17th of May is a key date for us in terms of start receiving tourists.
Yes,
from the UK.
Same in Portugal as well. 17th of May, big day in the diary of the world. Well, certainly in Europe. I wanted to ask, actually, while we're talking about Gibraltar, you're obviously in the wealth management world. You're our partner there at Expats Portugal. Find Paul in the directory under Fiduciary Wealth Management and say who sent you. And we'll be talking some top tips, actually, within the realm of the environment and people who care about the planet and making a bit of wonga as well. I think Paul's got some tips in that department. But why is there a concentration of wealthy people in Gibraltar, Paul? What's that historically?
I don't think it's there's no heavy concentration because it's a small market, a small economy. But I think that there's interest for a number of reasons. But there's a post-Brexit phenomenon where the fact that Gibraltar remains potentially, if they sign an agreement, part of Schengen. Which means it's easier to travel across the EU. So whereas we've exited the EU with the UK, we are most likely to be part of Schengen, which is passport free travel within the EU zone. That is being negotiated as we speak, and hopefully there'll be a resolution soon. So there'll be fluidity at the border in the same way that there's fluidity in the Spanish-Portuguese border, where there's very light controls. So that's generating interest in Gibraltar more recently. But Gibraltar offers, a British lifestyle.
Yes.
All the lifestyle benefits of being in the Mediterranean.
Right.
It's, for Brits, it offers, same language, same legal system, so the certainty of English law, and of course the pound still reigns supreme. So it's still very attractive. And then of course the low corporate tax rate and all the tax benefits that it offers to ultra high net worth individuals. So I think the level of interest we've had in 2021 is unprecedented. We've never had so many inquiries in the last 14, 15 years. And if you speak to other practitioners, they tell you a similar story. That there's a huge interest in relocating and redomiciling in Gibraltar.
Yes, and another kind of Singapore effect possibly in Europe. A very, very interesting situation. Okay, so we are talking to Doug and Claire in a little while about how they've had quite a major transformation from being skeptics or deniers of climate change into people who are very concerned about the matter, and we'll take our time and unpack that with Doug when we speak to him in just a moment. But you join us with investment tips, generally speaking, Paul, and we are of course going to be developing that further into an investment club. Plans to follow soon. But you've got a couple of picks for us from the world of people who want to invest responsibly.
Yeah, well, yes. I mean, not just responsibly, but I think we're the world is moving towards net zero emissions by 2050.
Mm-hmm.
Biden has just taken the presidency, and he's turned things round and signed up to the Paris Accord. So the US is now fully on board with net zero emissions. So, and there's a lot of money flowing into what they call ESG investments, which are, environmentally and societally governance. Anything which is green economy is attracting a lot of inflow. Yes. And in fact, a lot of the investment fund houses are now, they recognize that it's a high growth area. So they're establishing funds which are green. Yeah. And equally, there's agencies that are now coming and rating the funds, because everyone can label themselves as green to attract capital, but are they really green? So they're going to start rating those funds to make sure that they actually fulfill the requirements. So there's EU directives governing the rating criteria for different funds, but I think money is flowing into them for logical. But I think it's not just the green economy. Potentially, there's incredibly good investment opportunities if you have the right mindset and take a long-term view. So, whether it's battery storage or whether it's the clean energies, and we're talking about solar in particular, talking about tips, one of the best performing ETFs, it's a US ETF, it's called Invesco Solar ETF.
Okay.
And it really took off during 2020 and peaked at the end of the year at about $125 a share. And subsequently,
Invesco, did you say?
Invesco Solar ETF, right. And the code is TAN, TAN.
Okay.
And there's been a pullback in solar because it's been a bit overdone, overcooked too quickly. And look, for the long-term investor, this is just a blip. It's an opportunity to buy more, right?
Yes.
But it's gone down from 125 to about 72.99. That was yesterday's close. And look, it could go further down. But for someone who takes the long-term view, I think it's a no-brainer.
And it would go hand in hand, wouldn't it? Somebody concerned about the planet long term, the sort of person who might plant trees, for example, when they're out in the garden, or buy land to buy trees to rewild the environment. You would be thinking long term with investments as well, wouldn't you? Rather than making a quick killing.
I mean, the main problem we have with investors generally is that they want the returns, but they can't endure the short term volatility. And they are driven too much by fear. And then when the market goes up, they want to be greedy, but they don't want the volatility that comes with it. Then they need to keep it in cash. But if you are honestly, if you have the right mindset and you take the long term view, you can make I don't think we are at a turning point in history, because there's so many new technologies coming through, whether it's 5G and and clean energy and artificial intelligence. There's a lot of areas to invest in for the long term. But what you can't have is a short-term mindset where you haven't got the mental strength to endure that volatility. It's not widows and orphans. This is a long-term investment play. I'm going to invest in it for the long term. And if there's dips in the market, what a great opportunity to add positions and reduce the average price. Yeah.
Well, and that is the short termism is what's got us in the mess that people think we're in at the moment.
Totally. Totally,
Yes.
because I see it every day. I've seen it for 30 years, but people have to really change their chip if they
Yes.
want to. If they want to, the Warren Buffetts of this world, they've made investments in firms, strategic. Okay, they make tactical investment, but quite often they are strategic, long-term investments, right? And they reap the rewards because then they stick to it,
Yep.
and that's
Gary.
the important thing.
Yep. Gary says the problem has been this for the last 40 years. Everyone wants short-term profits, and that too is driven by fear, of course. Um, uh, Jonesy's here as well. The TAN ticker symbol for solar investing seems very appropriate. Uh,
Exactly. So, San Tan. What are you on? I mean, no one will forget because you think, yeah, Sun, Tan.
yes,
Yeah,
absolutely. Those words remember
easy,
so easily.
easy.
And there's always one. Look, Jonesy's also saying is Bitcoin a buy here. How long does it take normally for crypto to get mentioned when we're talking? It's been
Oh,
10
come
minutes this
on.
morning. So how
Look,
you, go on.
oh, okay. I don't think Bitcoin is particularly eco-friendly.
That's what they say.
Um, I think that's what you told me, Carl. And I think you're right in the way they mine the coins. But look, Bitcoin will be supported as um, so long as the central banks and governments are prepared to tolerate, Bitcoin. Eventually, once they launch their own digital currency, which is supported by gold reserves,
Mm,
they will start regulating. There's already noises in the marketplace. They'll start regulating all the cryptos, and
yes.
that's when the rug will be pulled from the floor, because I can't believe for 1 minute that the central banks and the big financial institutions that have so much resting on the current financial monetary system will allow Bitcoin and crypto to outdo them. I honestly don't.
Of course not.
And the other thing is, look, there's other things, due diligence and anti-money laundering, which I
Yes.
don't think that it is well known that it's a way of laundering money into the real economy. So they need to control that. I don't think from my understanding, I'm not sure that it's taxed in the way you tax other assets. And thirdly, regulation.
Yes.
They are unregulated investments and high volatility investments. So look, I'm sorry to be so negative on crypto. I think, look, in the short term, they might as well, no, it's okay. They might continue to do well. In the
Yes.
medium to long term, I think once the big guns come in and start regulating and start making life difficult,
Yeah.
I think there's going to be a pullback, a serious one.
No, I think you're right, and I actually, I have observed that, and I've just shared the idea that people are concerned environmentally about Bitcoin. I'm a big fan on a personal level, and Shelley loves the idea of changing your chip, which I guess is another way of changing your mindset. And I think the Bitcoin cryptocurrency, the blockchain, is changing the way we think about money. And I think you're absolutely right, Paul. Governments and the people who might want to control the situation aren't going to tolerate it for too much longer. And the other thing you said about with capital gains on Bitcoin, that's one great thing about Portugal. Portugal doesn't tax capital gains on crypto yet. Probably because it doesn't know how to or hasn't thought of doing it. It will happen in time, though, of course, won't it? No government's going to let that slip, are they?
No, and the thing is, the value of the crypto space is now phenomenal. I mean,
Yeah.
it's unbelievable, the value.
Yeah.
There's no value, but there's a value, yeah, because there's a price. So something which is backed by nothing has an intrinsic value which is very big, and there's heavy trading. Can you imagine at the time when governments are desperate to raise tax revenues, and they've got this little crypto which is not producing any gains? At the very least, they'll tax it, right?
Yes,
They'll
indeed.
regulate it and they'll tax it, and then they enter the regulated space and they have to compete with other assets on an equal footing. Are they going to hold the value? That's a question.
We will see, won't we? Colin's here. Good morning, Colin Ross Jones. As someone who has been sucked into fast profits promises, and we all have, haven't we, at some point, even if it was on Petticoat Lane as a child, as it was with me, it's always a scam. So well said, Paul. If it seems too good to be true, as the old saying goes, it probably is, right, Paul?
It is. It is. I mean, I fully agree with Colin. You get sucked into, because these rogue advisors operating in the expatriate space, they know that two things can drive, can get clients to buy in, right? Fear and greed. And they play on those emotions, and they know how to play that game. So it's very easy. You know, if you're promised a double-digit return, then you want to invest, right? You don't, you ignore the obvious, you
Yes.
know, and suddenly, you know, all you can see is the gold sign, yeah, the dollar sign,
Yep.
and that's a problem. Look, talking about eco, I'll give you a little tip because I don't want to preempt what we're going to do with the
Our
the investment club and whatever plans you have, which I'm happy to be a part of. But look, talking about clean energy and so forth, let me just organize myself a bit because
While you're saying that, I'll add a few more comments. So let me know when you're ready there, Paul. My worry with the regulation of the green economy is that the cost of conformity will drive the smaller companies out of business. Good point, Gary, because they won't be able to afford to conform. It's like the organic companies, isn't it? With often very complex rules and regulations. Good shout. I mean, we could do that for ourselves, right? Large companies can absorb this cost. And Iris Otoba's view on how to invest, or where we might invest, is we need to more eco builders to make eco-friendly homes for small people to buy. And I think by that she doesn't mean people under 5 foot. She means the little people of the world who need somewhere to live, and that's that would be. I think a lot of people would invest in a fund that invested in house building that gave people a fair chance. That's a really nice angle there, Paul. So have you got another one or two tips for us?
I will give you a tip, but the previous comment to that, what was it? The one prior.
Oh, the EU regulation driving costs up.
I think Gary is absolutely right, because the problem with the EU, you know, as an institution is that they like to over-regulate and you know, they like the bureaucracy and the cost. So on the one hand, it's a very good idea that people don't label themselves as green to capitalize on the capital flows into the green economy. But on the other, it should be light touch regulation, and it should be a simple system of ranking funds on the basis that they're really truly green rather than labeling, but don't make it overly complex and overly expensive to regulate, because it detracts from what we're trying to achieve. But look, one particular share that I would recommend for those with the appetite for long term, and that's NIO. Now, NIO is the next generation car company, and they do electrical vehicles. But as opposed to Tesla, they incorporate autonomous driving and artificial intelligence. And the good thing about NIO is that they IPO'd about 18 months ago. But they ran out of cash very quickly, and in stepped the Chinese government in an industry that they are keen to dominate, and they took a 24% stake in NIO. Now, NIO is still loss-making, admittedly. They have a market cap of 68 billion, but if I look at the revenues, and if I look at the revenue growth is growing phenomenally at 200% or more. But they're still loss-making and likely to continue being loss-making for at least a year or two more. But looking at the revenue growth, 2018 they generated $5 billion in revenue. 2019 they generated 7.8. 2020 they generated $16.3 billion. This current year they expect to generate 34.7 billion, and in 2022 it's expected to be 55 billion. So in the space of 5 years, there's been a 500 increase in revenue, in top line revenue growth. So I think by 2023, if not sooner, NIO will turn profitable. And we're seeing a pullback in the share from 60 to 34. It might fall down. I mean, it's come from 3. It was priced at $3 in 2020. So it went from 3 to 60. So that's like what, a 2,000% increase. Can you imagine how much? It's since pulled down and lost half its value to 34. It might continue dropping for a while, but I think, for the long-term investor, what an incredible investment opportunity, because unlike Tesla, it's got the backing of the Chinese government and the finance to back it. And what we've seen recently, and this is an interesting development, what we've seen recently is that China is starting to squeeze. I never understood why they were trying to squeeze Tesla. out of China. But of course, because initially they gave them, open arms, welcome Tesla, probably to steal their intellectual capital. Maybe I'm cynical, but now they're squeezing them out, of course, because they have to push NEO, where they have a 24% stake. Yeah. So I think, and again, top line revenue growth, incredible, beating analyst expectations. Yeah. They're breaking to profit in 2023, and the CEO, founder, chair, chief executive is William Lee, and he's obsessed about world domination for NEO, and he's recently expanded into Norway. Norway is a very green economy, and they see that as a hub, as a stepping stone into Europe. So they're opening plants in 5 cities in Norway, and that will be the drive to develop a global brand. So the financial picture is improving at a phenomenal pace. Yes, there's still some dark clouds hanging over the shares, and that's because there's a chip shortage, semiconductors globally, because, during the pandemic, there was a lot of demand for smartphones and iPhones and so on, and the supply chains have been disrupted, right? So they've been disrupted, and the demand is such that there's a supply shortage. And, you can't just build capacity overnight. You have to build plants. Taiwan is one of the leading countries of semiconductor chip production. And they have to build plants, and the plants have they take time to build. They cost 15 billion per plant. Mm-hmm. So there's a bit of a supply shortage, which could impact short term in NEO's delivery of electrical vehicles. So that's the cloud that is pulling the price down. But if you look at the long term outlook for NEO, it's phenomenal. And
all right, well, that's phenomenal. Great. And I've made a mistake there. It should be NIO. I put NEO, like Matrix Neo. And actually, correct. There is a cryptocurrency called NEO. I have a whole one NEO, which is only worth about 30 euros, I think. But anyway, NEO is the cryptocurrency, NEO, and the car manufacturer with the Chinese government backing, NIO, which is Paul's tip today.
I think there's a 40% upside from here. All right. 12 months to about 60. And okay. I think if you look further out, then the potential is just phenomenal.
All right. Well, Eric Willingham saying NEO with an E and an I looked pretty good. Almost the same chart, but more friendly US biotech versus. So another one. There's NEO as a biotech company, as well as NEO, the cryptocurrency. You've got to be careful what you're investing in. Double check. Measure twice, cut once, even in investments. Paul, always fantastic to talk to you. Looking forward to our webinar where we will begin the process of joining together in an investment club and having a bit of fun, making a bit of money there as well. So look forward to that, and have a great day in Gibraltar.
Thank you. You too. When is that date, so that the viewers know? Is it 11th of June or 16th?
This is 16th of June, of course. Thank you for that.
16th of June. Okay. Fantastic.
Okay. Have a great day in Gibraltar. All the best to you.
Take care.
And, check out Paul on Fiduciary Wealth Management in our business directory. All the best, Paul. See you later. Mate. Bye for now.
Bye.
Here we go. Marvelous. Okay, we're going to move on to our climate change. I don't know if it's going to be a debate. It's a kind of revelation situation here, isn't it? With Doug and with Claire. Doug should be on the screen now. We should be able to hear you. Can we hear you, Doug?
Let's see. Can you hear me?
Perfectly well. That's really rather marvelous. I'm so glad. And Claire as well. Good morning to you, Claire.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, can hear you too. This is all going really rather well. Unlike the environment, one might say. So looking forward to talking to you. Can I just include everybody else in the conversation here, catch up with a few comments, but so glad that you could both make it. Big and serious subject this morning, and we will take our time to unpack it and talk about it, and we'll give you both a proper introduction in just a moment. Andy, just so that you can get to know a few of our folks here, Claire. Olá a todos. I hope your Portuguese is good. Bom dia, alegria de meu caro, na rua de Marinha Grande para Laria. So Andy in the car. He would normally be here on a Wednesday. He's here tomorrow instead, and he's doing the Doc's Guide to Leiria. So join us for that. Very kindly gave way for this important discussion this morning. Bon dia from Stephen Wells. Edward Wilkes is also here. Ik woon in Portugal. I'm speaking Dutch, I think, here now. Ga nooit meer weg in heerlijk land. I don't know what I said there, really, but thank you, Edward Wilkes. Denier or sceptic, you can decide for yourselves in just a moment, Claire and Doug, on that. Hola, comrades from Hank. Haven't had your company for a while. Great to have you back. Joel is here as well. Jim is here, nursing a recently mended knee in Wiesbaden in Germany. Bon dia todos, cloudy day in the Rhine Valley. Hopefully no rain today. Prosecco Peggy's here, and now Milda from Norway is very busy, but reminds us that today is International Nurses Day. So whatever you're drinking this morning, can we give a little toast, or not a little one, a big toast? On
Bit early for Prosecco, Carl?
Not for me. For Prosecco Peggy, it is. Not early either. It's just what she does in the morning. But celebrating...
Bit of orange juice as well, perhaps.
Bit of a mimosa going on there, yeah. Yes, happy Nurses Day, everybody. A shout out to all the lovely nurses around the world. Grassa's here. Good morning, world. And wake up while you're about it, says Donna Grassa. I think we're having a bit of a wake up call this morning. Say more with Grassa. It'll be interesting to hear what you have to say further to your wake up call there. 17th of May. We can come from the US. No, I'm afraid not. Well, you might be able to, but that hasn't been announced yet, Hank. It's just the corridor between Portugal and the UK currently at the moment. Bernard Lynch, how can the tourism or Bernard? I'm not sure. If he's English, it'll be Bernard, won't it? If he's American, Bernard. How can the tourism in Portugal be open on the 17th of May with beaches not opening until the middle of June at the earliest? Part of the chaos is the only way I can describe that at the moment. Bon dia from a sunny but damp Biodiversity from Mark. Jonesy's here, of course. Wolfgang Wust is here from Wiesbaden, shouting out to Wiesbaden. Paul is here from the Circus School. A very cloudy morning. A very cloudy good morning from Northamptonshire this morning. Adrian Caffrey here again. We didn't make the connection yesterday, but we'll in due course. Bon dia, all from UK. However, check what BA is still warning when trying to book flights on 17th of May. It's going to be expensive, I suspect, as well. Still saying only one can fly for exceptional reasons and not for holiday travel, unless you're the Prime Minister's dad or something like that. Is Doug familiar with, we'll come to this, is Doug familiar with and have any views on the concept of companies being rated on a triple bottom line? I think that's going to come into our conversation, isn't it? Claire,
Absolutely.
You seem showing an interest in that particular...
I wouldn't be able to answer that question, but I'm not an expert, but I'm happy to find out.
Okay, excellent, marvelous. We're nearly at the end of the comments here, but it's really important to me to say hello to everybody. Hola, bon dia a todos de Inglaterra. Noresta, the Noresta for the wicked in Inglaterra there, the northwest, I believe. Deborah Davies, so much greenwashing around. We'll talk about this morning. It's difficult to know who to believe, whether you really are investing into something savory and wholesome or not, or if it's just because the CEO drives a Tesla. There are cryptocurrencies that do not use the same energy intensive methods to create additional coins as Bitcoin. Fantastic. And at least one has made more profit for investors. That's the Dogecoin. There. Thank you, Kate. Didn't see you earlier on. This is a lovely message. This is in line with what we're chatting about this morning. We are building an eco community in East Algarve. Small, affordable wooden houses with a unique concept that draws from mixing old-fashioned values and culture with modern living. We will also have, this is the way forward, isn't it? We will also have a forest-type education set up for children within the community and encourage the old and young to mix. Watch this space, doing something similar here. That's fantastic. Thank you, Facebook user. Sorry, don't know your name. Might be this same person who wants to meet up with me, but I don't know who you are. But as they say, keep up the good work and the great program. Thank you so much. And I think we're nearly there. Oh, when we sold off houses, my generation gained in the short term, but now our children have to pay inflated rents and house prices they can't afford. This all comes into our conversation, doesn't it? The economics this morning. We have a housing crisis while others make massive profits from other people's needs. There's a pattern emerging here. Donna Jacqueline is here. Has there not always been a climate change that goes in cycles? Good question. We'll put that
Bon dia, Donna Jacqueline. I haven't seen her for a while.
We will put that question from Donna Jacqueline to Doug and Claire this morning. Did you see my question 10 minutes ago about ethical investment? I'm sorry I didn't. Would be great if you get a chance to ask it. Oh, next time. So sorry. Good morning from Mrs. Circus School. Oh, I say, Mrs. Circus School is here this morning. Behave, everybody. Jordan also takes 3 to 5 years to get a silicon fab process up to speed as well, whatever that is, I believe. TSMC, more investment tips in Taiwan is the biggest at the moment. Demand way outstrips supply. These are the long lead times, I think, on these ecological investments. Ecological-ish. Taiwan is also suffering from a severe drought, which impacts semiconductor manufacturing processes and can cause shutdowns. All of this going on behind the scenes. Corey Dyspraxis is here. Kate adds, it's very risky for most people to invest in individual stocks. They should look at to have a diversified portfolio of investments, ETFs, UCITS. There's a wide range of socially responsible, climate change and ESG, environmental, social and governance and impact investing funds. Good to know, Kate. Maybe we need you back on to talk about them. Some are greenwashing to attract investors, hence the EU green taxonomy, but there are hundreds of investments that are genuinely ESG. Good to know. All right, let's leave it there for the time being with comments. Good morning to you, Doug. Good morning to you, Claire. Road to Damascus stuff this morning. Doug, would you care to set this up, set the context of what happened to you and why Claire is joining us this morning? Because I think she feels similarly.
Well, it comes off the back of that article that I did, I don't know, is it about 2 or 3 weeks ago in PT News, Portugal News?
Yeah.
And I wrote the article because I felt that my attitude to climate change had actually changed. Because before this, I was, well, for want of a better discussion, a denier. I was sort of in the Piers Corbyn camp and thought that the change in environmental conditions were probably down more to natural phenomena than they were to man-made changes. But of course, the weight of evidence, if you'd care to sit down and listen and read and take it all on board, suggests quite strongly otherwise. And I think Claire probably comes aboard about with the same sort of thing. She might not have been as much of a denier as me, but Claire, you fill in.
It's a slightly different story for me, and I'm really, really happy to be here and to be able to say hi to everyone. And having been an expat myself for 30 years, it's great to be able to, have a chat with people from very different places across Europe and the world. My story is slightly different in the sense that I've been aware for quite a while that there was an issue. You hear that all over. So I wasn't a denier per se. I was like, yeah, I'm aware, but actually there are different levels of awareness. And when you hear all this stuff, you're I'm not quite sure how big the problem is and what is it I can do myself. And more recently, I read a couple of books which were really eye-openers for me. And I'm really, really happy to share the titles of those books. And it happened in sequence for me. So I read one of them in July last year, and I thought, oh, well, I'm really going to act now. I really understand the size of the problem. I'm going to take action. And then really the action I took is nothing much more than putting the book on the back, the side of my table and doing nothing, which I think lots of us do. Indeed. And so I read another book recently, which is the one that you mentioned, Doug, in your article. And again, that kind of was a second eye-opener. And I thought, well, this time I really, really, really need to step up and do something. And that's just when I saw your article, Doug, in actually, I think it was 1st of May. Yeah. And I thought, well, isn't that interesting? So I contacted the newspaper and I said, can you put me in touch with the person who's written the article? And then we decided to take it from there. And what we really have in common is that we realize that individually and collectively something needs to be done. Mm-hmm. And then the question is what? And then over the last couple of weeks, I've been starting to think about what is that? More than saving on plastic bags, really.
Yes, well,
I can just interject on that one. It's funny, actually, because on Friday, I penned another article which is coming out in Portugal News as well, and that addresses the issues that Claire's been discussing. Is what can we do, both collectively and as individuals? And basically, if we do it as individuals, and if enough individuals sort of get on board, not one or two, but thousands, and eventually more than that. Everybody doing a little bit can amount to quite a lot. And what we really need is to buy ourselves some time to address the bigger issues.
Okay, let's articulate those then, the bigger issues. Before we do that, can we get a sense of do excuse me, where you are, because we are on the Good Morning Portugal show. This is Expats Portugal. Doug, you're in Wales, but you're a Lusophile. You love Portugal, right?
I am indeed. Yes, I come whenever I can.
Yes, and Claire, you mentioned your expat angle here. What's your connection with Portugal?
Well, I am currently in Portugal, and I've been here for 1 year. We bought the house 4 years ago because, well, actually, the sun was one of the reasons why we came here, and also people are really, really kind. I didn't speak a word of Portuguese at the time, so people could speak good French, good English. So we kind of got that house, and 2 years ago, my husband moved here, and I was doing the commute between London, where I've been based for the last 20 years, doing the commute, and in COVID times, I've been here.
Yes,
so I've been here for a year.
That's wonderful to set that scene. Thank you so much. And originally French?
Yes.
How did I get that?
I cannot hide that one.
Okay, so Doug, big issues. Let's go into those. What was it that awoke you from your sort of skeptical, or your slumbering, or your skepticism? Because I mean, I love the way you write, and you started the article with, not so long ago, I was one of the original climate skeptics. I honestly believe that the environmentally traumatized eco-hippies who tended to peddle the notion of death by global warming were just a bunch of cranks who had some sort of ideological gripe against the bourgeoisie. All I could see was a very angry bunch of Zen weirdos doing their level best to rain on other people's parades, trying to bully the middle classes out of their four-wheel drive vehicles and shouting shame on you from the lofty canopy of an ancient oak tree. That's really, I think a lot of people will find that amusing, can resonate with that, could see what you're getting at there. What were the big issues? What were the big facts or the research that you did that suddenly made you get up in the tree with them?
Well, I'm scared of heights. It was that just having conversations with various people over the months, over the years, and basically, I mean, the climate has been an issue that's discussed widely on the media and newspapers, on the telly, on the radio, and you can listen to two sides of this debate, almost like Brexit. You know, I mean, there are people who fervently believe one way and people who fervently believe another. And if you're too polarized and you listen to I like Doc's comment, by the way, and if you listen to both sides of the argument carefully, you'll see that there's probably a little bit of merit in each.
Yes.
So what drove me, I suppose, is eventually, I'm a grandfather now. Yes, I'm an old person, so I'm a grandfather, and I really do want the world to be a good place for my grandchildren and their children. And by turning a blind eye to the blatantly obvious and all the nasty things that are actually happening, in full view of even the most blind, I thought that was irresponsible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And can you give us, and we'll come to you, Claire, on the same question, but what specifically then? What facts and figures? Or, I mean, yeah, you're right. I mean, it's not like that anyone isn't aware of the information that circulates around this debate. But what were the key things that pushed you specifically, actually, factually? This is for Doug.
Sorry, can you repeat that one? I thought you were addressing Claire. I'm sorry.
No, I get the idea. You know, as a grandfather, you take a different view of the world, and you want it to be a nicer place for your grandchildren. But what are the facts and figures that really turned you? What could you see that might be happening that was really the sort of pivotal moment?
Well, but basically, the fact that there are so many people in the world. I mean, and there've always been droughts and famines, haven't they? And there've always been severe climate events. Yeah. But good old Blighty, good old England was almost shielded away from all of this. We didn't really have much horrible things going on in England. We didn't have an awful lot of flooding. We didn't have droughts and all that sort of thing. But suddenly, you know, these days the climate is changing, even in England, where you can almost guarantee that every year there's going to be severe flooding somewhere. And you know, and they say that a warm atmosphere retains more moisture, and of course we're in the firing line in Britain. If it's going to rain anywhere, it's going to rain here, isn't it?
Yeah.
So so it's raining at the moment, actually, quite a lot. But we needed it because we had 3 weeks before that of unseasonal drought, which is not something that we're normally used to.
So this is the thing for you, in your own experience, you're perceiving hazardous and very unpredictable weather patterns that you think is being caused by humanity.
Absolutely, and
Okay.
the gradual desertification of the Iberian Peninsula, especially in the south.
Yes.
And something that I read, and I think it's in the piece, that the Spanish agricultural ministry believe that 2/3 of the Iberian Peninsula might be affected by desertification or gradual, become semi-arid in a very short period of time, which is worrying.
This is from your article. 32 million Spanish people are said to have been adversely affected by the effects of climate change. Summers in the southern regions left 5 weeks longer than they used to in the 1980s, and temperatures keep getting higher, with regions such as Alicante, Murcia, Almería becoming increasingly arid. The Spanish Agricultural Ministry fears that 3/4 of the Iberian Peninsula could be subject to the same semi-arid climate as the Tabernash Desert by the end of the century. This is a truly sobering thought. Indeed, it is. So let's come to you, Claire, with that. What was your turning point, facts and figures wise, if you like?
Well, there's so many facts and figures. I don't know where to start, and my memory is not really good. But a couple of things. One is there is an exponential growth of lots and lots of things, such as the population, the use of fertilizers and pesticides, and over the last 70 years, the size of the population has tripled.
Yeah.
Which means that we need to feed all these people. And this is a fact, this is a data. And in that really, really excellent book from David Attenborough, probably everybody knows him in the UK, maybe a bit less, who's produced these brilliant videos on planet Earth and, the animals and our planet more in general. He tells you that biodiversity, which is extremely important for the balance of the world, because we all live and work in that planet, and we all have a role to play. Biodiversity is such that it has halved in 70 years. Mm-hmm. So from 100% a long time ago, it was to 70% when my father was born, and now it's 30% of biodiversity that is left. So when there are some animals that are missing in the whole chain of, a big animal, it's a slightly less big one, and they will eat each other. And there is a chain when they're big holes, and there is a big imbalance at the level of the planet. So these are, a couple of figures. I can, if that's of any interest, I can share which are the books that I felt really, really interesting to read. They're very, very easy read, and they are for the general public, like you and I. They're not expert to expert.
Absolutely, share them by all means.
Okay. Can you see that?
I'm going to zoom in on you for these. Okay. The Future We Choose.
The Future We Choose, and this is written by somebody whose name is Christiana Figueres.
Yeah.
And she was the head of the branch of the United Nations that was involved in negotiating the Paris Agreement in 2015. So she was pretty much at the heart of all of that. And that book really gives you a vision of what the future will look like if we if we keep doing what we're doing, or what the future will look like if we really address the issues.
Yes.
Brilliant book, and then and then it tells you, well, what is it that we need to change in terms of mindset. Very easy read, not too big, for those who don't like to read too much. And then the other one is the David Attenborough one, which is this.
Life on Our Planet.
Life on Our Planet. He's done a really good Netflix video as well, which is probably, a 90-minute program. And again, very, very instructive, and then with some, direction in terms of what it is that we can be doing. Highly recommend those books.
Thank you very much. And the future we choose, this is the important thing, isn't it? And we'll obviously, we like to see ourselves as dynamic and positive in this environment of the Good Morning Portugal show. So it's, what are we going to do about it is the key question here, isn't it? Having had this awakening. Let me just go back to a few comments, and then we'll move into the solution focus, if you like, having articulated. I think, most people have some sense that, whether they're a skeptic, a denier, or a full-on tree hugger, however we characterize and stereotype these people, how we're living isn't that great for many people, and hasn't been for many years. You could argue long before, some of us are in the most well-off parts of the world are suddenly waking up to this, and we are ruining our own. We are, pardon the turn of phrase, but we are. Spoiling our own nest, I'll put it that way, and clearly that's not sensible, as you were saying there, Claire. The sense I get is, that old definition of insanity, to do the same thing over and over again to get a different result. We're all getting familiar with that now, aren't we? So clearly we need to do something different. Yeah. Whichever side of this you're on, it doesn't seem to be working for most of the people most of the time, including the environmental piece. So, Bondia, Bitcoin uses only a tiny amount of electricity compared to the existing banking system. Bitcoin is a peaceful monetary system, whereas fiat currency is used for many years to fund wars and death. I would say, well said there, DJ. Jacqueline Brown is here. Don Jacqueline, I don't deny that climate change is happening and will increasingly get hotter until it melts like wax. The why is the biggest issue. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about why would we be this insane, humanity? Why could we see that we are hurting ourselves and our planet so viciously and then continue to do it the next day or the next hour? And the remedy, the biggest issue is the why, and the remedy, and even bigger, says Jacqueline there, who I'm sure we'll chip in some more. Climate change, it'll be worse next year for the rest of our lives. Well, thanks for that, Hank. But at least, says Stephen, it's not acid raining anymore. Well, we can be thankful for that, can't we? Man-made, anthropogenic climate change is a defining challenge of our time. It is literally existential for the human race. Pension funds and insurance companies, particularly in the EU, have been working on climate finance methods to deploy funds to finance a positive climate transition for over a decade. The UK and the US are behind the curve, funnily enough. The old empires, you might say. Why do I have to pay so much tax on car emissions when we had a 2017 the huge fires that sent atmosphere millions of tons of CO2, and the government doesn't care about that? Yes, well, I'm sure politics will come into this and the choices that governments make, Nunu, but that's a great contribution. Thank you. Anyone on the panel familiar with the work, research and commentary of Björn Lomborg and the impact of certain actions that can be taken to improve the planet? Asks Mark in Australia. 1000% recommend it. So another good inclusion recommendation there. I love how all the animals came out to play last year when we were all locked up behind closed doors. Yes, the evidence is clear for those who care to see it. I think everyone knows climate change is a real thing. Only some Trumpies, don't want to know if it affects their personal bottom line. I think that's we see the characterization you're making there, but that could get us into some hot water. We need to be in this together, really, don't we? To use another political cliche, rather than chucking stones at each other politically. Just read the peer-reviewed literature, and you'll see how screwed we are, says Hank. Well, thank you for that, Hank. I think we can assume that we need to do something about the way we're living, right? Let's go from that point of view this morning. If the problem is CO2, why don't we just plant more trees? It's a good idea, isn't it? Best time to plant trees 10 years ago, and the second best time today. Cover deserts with solar panels. This will shade the ground and produce microclimate for plants, and then use solar electricity to desalinate water from the sea to water the plants. Simple, says DJ. A techno fix there. Can humanity be trusted to come up with solutions to humanity's problems, given the mess we put ourselves in? Selling of council houses was a naked vote buying exercise, just like the selling of public utilities for a small and temporary windfall to the people who owned them in the first place, says William Harris Evans. Portugal, top 10 economies that are vulnerable to climate change, according to UN-sponsored research. People accuse me of being a little bit too positive here. There's a sobering fact about Portugal for those who need to know the downside. That is sobering. top 10 economies that are vulnerable to climate change. Portugal, says Kate. While households can make changes, the aggregate impact will be modest. The key is changing the production, manufacturing and distribution processes of industry, commerce and logistics. And I suspect Claire and Doug will talk about this in due course as we look at solutions. This is from Mark, though, for now. The latter requires substantial international cooperation of governments in terms of regulation of manufacturing and destruction processes, and also altering the incidence of taxation and tax subsidies. Yes, I'm sure there is a big responsibility on the government, but can we leave it to them and not take action ourselves? Now that Mrs. Circus School is on here and she can see my comments, it's going to change the climate in our house. I have a feeling it could become permanently frosty. Sorry to hear that, Paul. Global dimming plus already emitted CO2 equals an intractable problem. Let's see if we can bring Hank back from the dark side this morning. Watch the documentary What the Health and Cowspiracy on Netflix. Yeah, that'll make you a vegetarian at least for a few days. Colin Jones, earlier we were talking about long-term investment. Going green in your life is a long-term investment, says Colin there. And let's have a look. Just a couple more comments, folks. We need to address the ecological cost of the new climate-friendly technologies. Lithium mining is a nightmare for the areas affected. We believe that's to be the case. And also, Portugal is a lithium mining area, isn't it? So far overturned on a massive scale.
It's the biggest lithium deposit in all of Europe, and it sounds like a small amount. They're believed to be 1,200 tons of lithium in Portugal. That's been currently found. It doesn't sound like much, does it? But the thing is, lithium is found in tiny amounts. So to extract that 1,200 tons, an awful lot of damage needs to be done to the environment.
And there will be people itching to do that and make money from it. You can bet your life, right? Here's a 4-word assessment of the problems of humanity: class, selfish, individualism, and greed, from Fiona there. It's not a bad analysis, but we are moving on to solution focus now rather than a name calling. I think we've got that bit out of the way now. Lol, Carl, I'm very pessimistic when it comes to climate change. It's very bad, but at least you're laughing again, Hank. Let's get into the action and the solutions now. B. Lomberg, half the world now believe that humanity will go extinct from climate change. The reality. UN expects average person by 2100, 2100 to earn 450% of today's income. Not sure what that means, Jonesy, there, but I mean, what a sad indictment that is about all of us, that we carry on living the way we are if half of us expect that there will be such a mass extinction from climate change. And on we go, heads down. Some eco-inimical people need to have stones thrown at them. Okay. All right. I can't condone that on here. Jonesy, climate will reduce that to 434%. Problem, not end of world. 434% in terms of real buying power. Unlikely. The doc getting stuck in there to that sentiment. Ultimately, the why is greed and avarice, whether individual, corporate, or governmental, and fear as well, right? Hey, Carl, I am an economist, and I'm one of those people. Along with the leaders of every major central bank. The network for greening the financial system encompasses every major market. If we can change where the money flows, we can influence our future. Jordinja, I think the environment movement could do better in terms of how risks are described. Less of the nebulous killing the planet. Yeah, no wonder people switch off, right? Better to point out the costs of inaction, both financial and ecological there. Lithium is the new coal, says Stephen. That's a good observation. Mankind alone does not have the wisdom to fix the problems we create. I think that's true, Jacqueline. Trees rewilding, etc., needs to be done carefully, not just jumping in and out, planting any old tree. More eucalyptus is not a solution. We know that here in Portugal. And just for the time being, last comment, the world doesn't need us to save it. We can spill every chemical, let off every bomb, set fire to the whole place. The world will shake its head, and within 200 years we'll be fine. We will be screwed, says Mark, Australia. I think there's
something to be said for that one, isn't there? Yeah.
Yes. Let's move on to some solutions then. Claire, you said you read the book, put the book down, but now's the time for action. What to do?
The problem, as we all know, is extremely complex, and it's great to see that there are lots of views and awareness already in the people listening here. What can we do? I think there's 3 levels. There is the political level, there is what happens in industries, and there is what we average people can do. Well, what we average people can do is increase our level of awareness, really get to the facts and the data and get them from experts and read that sort of books and further. Then we can look at what is our own individual footprint. And there are some stuff around, and I can give some, I don't have time to go into details here, but it was a big revelation for me when I realized the size of my footprint, and there are tools online to help you do that. So we can take literally everything we do, from the way we dress and the way we eat and the way we travel. All of that has a footprint, has a cost in terms of carbon, CO2, for instance. So we can address that. So little actions in our daily life, we can work on that. Investments, and it's great that we started to talk about that. Where do we put our money? Do we put our money where our mouth is? And lastly, some form of influencing, because politicians who take lots of important decisions, they go where the wind the wind blows. So the stronger the wind, the more they kind of go, all right, they'll stop navigating just like this. They'll have to go in the direction of that wind, and that's where we have a responsibility, so that our kids have to pay less of the bill, because at the moment the way we're living is we're leaving the bill behind to our kids, as Doug was saying, children, grandchildren. So we've got a massive responsibility at individual level to act. And myself, as an executive coach, my job is to help people think about what it is they want to achieve and how they're going to get there. And I think, we all need to go to that process first to decide we want to play an active role there. And it's easy to think, look, the problem is so big, where do I start? But actually, there is a lot we can do, and we need to decide and then do it, because I've decided before and didn't do anything. So it's then to do it and be persistent. Yes. And I was going to hand over the microphone to Doug, but he's disappeared now.
Disappeared on that note. Maybe he's gone off to take action. Enough talking.
He's gone off to run and take action.
That's it. I'm going. I'm going to go and change the way I dress. But as you said, and invest money. Oh no, he's back again now. Doug, we thought we lost you there. We thought you'd gone to take direct action. Put yourself in front of a JCB or something like that.
So I think there was a dropout in my internet connection just briefly there.
Yes, well, I mean, dropout's quite a good phrase to be using at the moment. I mean, that's how I see it. I think we need to, as they say in Portugal, calma, tranquilo. We need to slow the hell down and really reflect on what's going on. And I think as long as we're driven by panic and fear, we are not going to be in a very resourceful state to do anything about this peril we perceive here. But Doug, over to you for some practical action. And what steps are you taking?
Well, I just listened to one of the comments earlier on already when it was up on screen, and I kind of agree. I think a guy called Mark interjected and said that he didn't think that what individuals do, isn't going to amount to very much. Well, I kind of agree with that in a way, but what it might do, I think, is just if buy us enough time. And that's what we're running out of. That's another commodity that we're running out of. If we can buy us by doing small things individually, like there are certain things that are just plain wasteful, leaving lights on in rooms that we're not in, heating rooms that we don't use, and stuff like that. And making unnecessary journeys as well in our cars and so on and so forth. And if I do it, just me, it's not going to make a blind bit of difference. But if a lot of people do it, we need to buy that enough time so that we can collectively do something. It's turning my camera off. Yes, okay, I get it. Doesn't like looking at me, does he? So that's one way. A little bit by everybody sort of adds up.
I'd like to build on something you've just said, Carl, around time. I really agree around the fact that panicking is not a solution and it doesn't put us in the right mindset. However, time is of essence here, and all the experts will say that. And one of the experts I was listening to said, well, an illustration of how time matters is this. Imagine you're driving at 100 kilometers an hour and you need to bring your speed to 0. You've got two ways to do it. One is to really press hard on the brake, and it will take you 10 seconds. And the other way is to hit a wall. And he says you'll get to 0, but you won't be in the same state. And that guy is an expert. And he's using that as an analogy to say, guys, time is of essence. So I agree, no panic, but there is a lot that needs to be done soon by us individually, by politicians, and by experts who need to find some technical solutions that we don't have at the moment in terms of how we use energy and get out of fossil energy into renewable energies and all of that. A lot needs to be done for which we don't have solutions yet. But, you know, hopefully we're clever enough, and there's some people, it won't be me, I'm not a science person, but there's some people there who hopefully can help with some solutions as well.
Thank you both for those solutions and that sort of solution orientation there. I've got another question for you that's, I suppose, looking at the same thing but from a different angle. What do you think it is we're protecting? If the case for this is so clear, and we've already acknowledging, I mean, collectively, this is like some sort of Insanity Anonymous group this morning, isn't it? Because all the people watching are collectively acknowledging how crazy we are to have done this to ourselves and our planet, right? There's no one here saying, I love how we're destroying our planet. No, people don't usually say that, do they? So everyone can agree this isn't right, how we're going about this. But why do we then continue to go about it in much the same way? What do you think is being protected and promulgated and promoted in this ridiculous and insane way? What is the psychological thing? I mean, you might not, Claire, as a coach, what's going on in the minds of people where they know they're not living in the right way, but they continue to do it every day?
Well, change is difficult. I mean, I'm a reformed smoker. You know,
right.
You know, smoking's not good for you. Well, you still have lots of good reasons, and it's not an easy move to stop smoking. So here, it's very easy to be in denial and think, well, there isn't, you know, it's too complicated. I don't know how to address it. There is something which is called a change curve. If we need to change, there is a sense of loss. We lose something. We're going to win something in the end, which will be better. But there are lots of emotions around grieving and loss, which can go through anger and sadness and all of that. So we don't feel like going there. We don't know. So we just avoid that. And, you know, just comfort and just thinking we're too busy with our life just now. And I hear that, you know, oh yeah, climate change is a big thing, but actually I'm too busy.
Yeah.
But yeah, too busy running our life. Yeah. And I plead guilty for that as well.
I was discussing something with Claire when we met up on Zoom a few days ago. I mean, this sort of personifies it, I think, is that we've all, one of the things is that during this pandemic, all these fleets of aircraft have been grounded. People have been doing fewer car journeys. People have been doing fewer of everything, haven't they? And basically the CO2 levels during that period has only dropped by 7%, which is only quite scratching the surface. Basically, it's not much. Yet, what we're actually hearing right now is that everybody is scratching to get back to the old norms. You know, how soon can we go on holiday? How soon can we get on the aircraft? How soon can we go and do these journeys to here, there, and everywhere? And probably build. It's not going to be the 7% bringing us back to the old 100%. People are going to be so pent up. It's going to probably go high, you know, even higher than it was before. So basically, whilst the air cleared over Beijing for a while, I don't think it's going to stay clear for long.
No, and I suppose it's a bit like if you're a smoker and you try and give up smoking. Some people end up smoking even more, don't they, with the stress of trying to give up smoking? To make that analogy that Claire shared with us earlier on. Claire, you're going to add something there.
Yeah, I just wanted to add one thing. So, you know, my experience was I want to do something. I'm going to do something. Then I did nothing. So now again, I've recently, since actually around the time I've read Doug's article, so quite recent, I've made the decision to devote my time for free to help to help people take action. So I'm turning down projects that are going to bring me money. I'm turning them down to say, look, that now really needs my attention, and I'm going to put efforts on that, and I'm going to, you know, talk to people, do what I'm doing now, talk to people and say, well, I can't wait and sit longer. I need to do something. And I'm attending some webinars, and I'm taking action. I'm connecting with some politicians here. And it's a tough decision, but I'm just thinking, unless I do it, nothing will happen.
Yeah.
So I'm in a process of turning down some work at the moment and saying to people, look, I just hate to say it, but I'm going to not do that piece of work because I think there is something that is more important to address. And unless I make that decision, it won't happen. And I want to know that I've done the best I could. Sorry.
Yeah.
Doug.
Yes. That's fantastic, Claire. I'm really happy that simply by picking up the article that I penned has spurred that in you. So I can be happy in my little way that just simply by writing the article, I've done something, you know. And if I can inspire Claire, maybe I can inspire a lot more people. And actually, the next article that's coming out on Friday in Portugal News is it's called "Let's Start a Debate About Climate Change." And basically, I think that's what we've already done here.
Yeah. Well, so that's where to look out for. I did put the link for the current article or the previous one in the comments earlier on. This is Doug's article, Confessions of a Reformed Climate Change Skeptic, which is really the reason why we're here today and why Claire has joined us. And we'll continue to talk about it a little bit longer this morning and include your comments here. Keep bringing those insights, questions, solutions into the comments, folks. This ties into what we were talking about earlier, short-term thinking. While our generation did what was right for us, me in brackets, we went on voyages of self-discovery, had our life coaches, personal trainers, and financial advisors. We forgot that the world is more about that. Is more about than what is good for I. Yes, we do live in the iPhone, I-centric, iPad age, don't we? Me. We share this planet with billions of other lives, and what I do has a ripple effect. Thank you for that, Garvo. Yes, the koalas apparently would be voting for planting eucalyptus, according to Eric. It's the Koala Union voting for eucalyptus planting. And a holiday in Portugal, maybe. DJ, first it was global warming. Oops, coldest April on record in UK. Then climate change. It's always changing. Look at fossils. Now climate emergency. To control people, they need to be afraid. I think there's some truth in this, but
that was used to be my opinion. I thought exactly that basically climate and instilling the fear of climate emergency, instilling the fear of global warming was a way of it being the new fire and brimstone, the new fear of God, the new religion, if you like. But there is so much if you sit down and take it all on board, read the books, read the articles, look at the evidence. There's so much evidence out there to back up what the scientists are saying. Just honestly, there is.
Yeah, just take the time. Just take the time. I can share a few more resources offline if you want. If you can put some stuff online, Carl. If that's any useful.
You would be a great asset in our Expats Portugal forum for sure, Claire. And I think we can spark a further discussion and further support for people actually who are similarly inspired or depressed, whichever way you look at it, to take some action. But I think, you know, being a skeptic almost is that what this is? It doesn't mean we don't have to do anything, does it? Even though that there might be people wishing to exploit and have an agenda. It's a bit like parents, really, isn't it? With Father Christmas, you know, just because parents use Father Christmas as a way of controlling their children's behaviour doesn't mean it's not a nice thing to be nice and behave nicely, does it? I mean, so both things can be true, I think, and there can be a strange inconsistency.
I love that analogy. That's brilliant. I love that.
Yeah, Stephen Wells, Eric, I've always wondered if they would try introducing koalas to manage the eucalyptus. This is dangerous territory, Stephen, because this is like the cane toads, isn't it? Or the myxomatosis, you know. We'll control the rabbits with a deadly chemical, no problem. And it just was horrible. And cane toads and, you know, this, that, and the other. Humanity does have to be a little bit careful about its own limitations, I think, but that shouldn't stop us trying to get a handle on this, whatever it is, this vast problem we're talking about. And the other thing that comes to mind as well, of course, is these you've been applauded, Doug, for, you know, the small changes, and they are important. And if we were to live more locally and more peacefully and shopped locally, supported local people, supported local businesses, planted more trees, lived more healthily, ate more healthily, and you know, wouldn't that just be a good thing anyway to do? It's like, you know, I think it's all a big conspiracy, so I'm not going to do any of those things. Again, you would be mad not to do those things because those things seem like quite sensible things to do anyway, right?
It's so easy to do that, especially in Portugal. If you think of all the municipal markets brim full of the freshest produce you can possibly imagine, none of it shrink wrap in plastic or anything like that. And it's all local. Well, not all of it's local, but it's certainly fresh. And, you know, that's one way of doing it, isn't it? You're shopping local, you're supporting local.
Yeah, and there was an article in the Sunday Times this weekend saying that actually being sustainable saves you money, and there were like kind of a number of bullet points around in which way it does. So it can also be, you know, saving our health, and also, our money.
Yes, yeah, indeed. Part of the living in it, the worst aspect of living in the moment and trying to save money now, of course, the cost is always felt. If not by you today with a saving, it'll be moved elsewhere, won't it? It's a bit like, you know, waste. It goes somewhere else, doesn't it? The things we like goes or dislike goes somewhere else. And it's the same with cost. There is a true cost of things, and if we don't pay it, someone else is paying it. And I think we're beginning to understand that. We are the political space. We must impose our mass control of it. The doc, I'm sure we'll have a little bit more to add tomorrow when he joins us with his view and his proud sharing of his hometown Leiria. Don't forget tomorrow, Thursday, Places and Spaces Portugal. Doc will be here with his introduction to Leiria. Recent book from the former climate activist Apocalypse Never, Why Environmental Alarmism Hurts Us All, by Michael Schellenberger, probably worthy of inclusion in our reading list today. Say what you like about the finance world. We're good at hedging. Sell eco-investments as a hedge. Once the real effects are being felt, the hedge will become the primary investment markets on side. Jordinger, liking the cut of your jib this morning. The circular economy idea is worth exploring. Absolutely. Waste equals food equals resources. We're currently throwing precious resources into landfill. Another aspect of our insanity, right? I agree with Claire on taking personal action. Land, they could grow their own food in their own homes. This would come back to the doc's politics, of course, wouldn't it? From wood and cob soil, that is, wouldn't need to consume oil-based stuff. That's right. Distribution of resources comes back to that. We have the technology, or is it just around the corner to resolve many of the issues we have created? We don't have the political or corporate will to do it. It is just window dressing. Down to us, right, Mark? I mean, at some point, we have to stop blaming and leaving it to the politicians. Do you not think? Stephen Wells, Jordinger, something like 30% of produced food is wasted in the UK. That is madness, utter madness. Nunu, if we change the world to 100% electric cars, the governments in the world say, we would need 84 million tons of lithium just to destroy countries to mine, and in the end, we can't even play trees. And again, I mean, what do you guys say about changing lifestyle? You know, just to carry on living the same insane lifestyle, but with electric cars, doesn't seem like a very good idea to me. What do you say, Doug?
Well, first of all, I don't think there's 84 million tons of lithium in the world at the moment as we speak, or certainly hasn't been discovered. I think the estimates for the total amount of lithium in the world stand somewhere between 14 and 40 million tons. And that's going to take some extracting. And that's going to take doing a lot of damage to a lot of places in the world, you know, and it's going to affect the local communities around it. But that's just one thing. Back to your question. What was it? Can you repeat the question, Carl? What did you ask me just?
I'm not sure I can remember. Oh yes, it's about changing in lifestyle. You know, if we just carry on living the way we do, which is arguably part of the problem, but make it less or more eco-friendly and less environmentally harmful. An own goal, isn't that a part of the insanity again? Don't we need radical change of how we view the world, how we view ourselves, and how we live ultimately?
Yeah, I think that's what needs to happen, but it's not easy. You know, we need to have a purpose. We need to have a reason to change, not just, you know, it's a bit, you know, the issue around the planet might be a little bit too vague, too theoretical, but once we get the data, we understand the data, as Doug is saying, the data is really, really clear, then and once we've got clarity around what we want to do about it for the future of our children, and we don't want to leave the bill behind us, then, you know, that's when those changes make sense. It's about sense making.
The other thing I discussed with you last week, Claire, was of course, let's just go back to the last big pandemic, which was the Spanish flu in 1918. The population of the world then stood around about 1.8 million. Now it's rapidly approaching 8 million, and they reckon that won't be all that long before it crosses 9 million. Now then, one of the most astonishing statistics that I've seen recently, if everybody was to have a lifestyle similar to the way the three of us presume that we travel, we live in modern homes, blah. I drive. I'm sure Claire drives, and I'm sure you drive as well, Carl. Let's just look at it as the average middle class American lifestyle. If the whole world, that's all 7.8 billion of us, were to have that lifestyle, to sustain that, to put the same amount of food in all of our bellies, to put the same amount of energy at each of our disposals, it would take 4 planet Earths to generate that.
Yes, and we don't have that.
We don't have it.
No, that's a good way of putting it. Somewhat depressing. I'm coming back to your change curve, Claire, and creating the momentum for change and real change. What in this context? What is that? What is that gift to people that makes them say, "Yeah, okay, time has come to change this. I've got this. We can do this."
Well, there are two things. There is, as I was saying, sense making. Why would I want to be going through change?
Yeah.
And then there is learning to cope with the grieving around that. And grieving a form of life until we go to a different form of life. It goes through any process, such as any grieving. When people have lost somebody really close to them, they find a way to cope with that, and this is an individual mechanism in terms of how do I cope with what I'm going through. Yeah. Some people say they lose a child. I mean, I hope it hasn't happened to anybody here. Then, people decide to go into, I'm going to fight for that cause, say a car accident, so that less people have a child who dies in a car accident. So, we all find our own inner resources to cope with that mechanism of, these negative emotions around change.
Yes. You make a great point there, and the platforms for talking about it, I think, are really important, aren't they? Because we're not talking much about, because it's not cool, is it, to say, well, actually, I love driving around, and I love eating meat, and you can't just sort of say that and unpack it. This is where we're at. I think we need to be able to speak without criticism, and not necessarily support either, but just to be heard about what's going on. Because until you're heard about what you really feel you're going to lose, and this may sound very sort of tree huggy and introspective and a little sort of navel contemplating, but I truly believe this, that if people aren't able to fully articulate what they feel they might lose, because we are all selfish little brats after all, but if you can't come face to face with that and articulate it and be freed and help yourself be free of it, we're probably going to stay stuck, aren't we? So if I may, as we conclude today, we've got lots of lovely comments. They're very important to the show, but I'll come back to you both for a final word, if I may, after we've looked at a few comments here, as the rousing jumping off point, solution focused for both of you. But yes, some lovely comments to include before we come back to you to conclude there. Had a great conversation, says Gary, with Jenny B. She's a regular contributor, a couple of shows a month with us. Jenny Barraco in Central Portugal of Wholly Healthy. She is trying to get local people away from using pesticides and chemicals on the land that have horrendous consequences for wildlife. Even though what she's telling them can actually save them money, she often gets resistance because people don't easily change their ways, especially when foreigners tell them how to live their lives. Well, absolutely right. That's so true. Jordinger, Doug has a great point about turning things off is important. Side note, Bitcoin uses less power per year than devices left on standby in the US. Yes, all those power adapters that are burning away, that could power up entire countries. Again, another sign of our madness, folks. Capitalism encourages ostrich-like behavior, massaged by short-term bottom line fixation. That's true as far as I can see, Doc. Mark Rigby, the complexity of the problem is the incidence of cost benefits. Production and distribution may reap benefits and cause climate change as a result, and the cost of addressing climate change falls on part of society. There is a limited incentive for profit seekers to change if the costs are borne by others. Absolutely. This is the consciousness we need to develop, isn't it? If we hurt anyone, we hurt all of us. Further complexity is the intergenerational impact. Current benefits causing future harm for future generations. Certainly profit seekers are happy for people to be primarily, and we'll have to come back. It's also inertia, says Kate. The business models that have existed for many years require collaborative thought, research and action. But, and it's a big but there in capitals, when polluting businesses find that it's harder to get finance, insurance companies refuse to insure them and the company's reputation is trashed along with its board members. The result is change. Look what happened just recently with Shell and HSBC. What? They paid the fines and moved on, Kate? Just joking. To the point about apathy towards change, I think there's also significant financial interest in selling polluting products and services. Yes, it's in their interest to make those convenient and cheap. It sure is. And, poor people have to buy poor stuff, I'm afraid to say. And that's not helping. Excuse me, just need to cough. You thought I was getting choked up and emotional. That may still happen today. 2 words, global dimming. Temperatures paradoxically increased with the drop in cow from the pandemic. Okay, I'm not sure I understand. Oh, drop in CO2. There you go, says Hank. And by cow as well. I mean, aerosols as the result of industrial activity. I think we can make some sense if we go back forensically through your comments there, Hank, and thank you for them. Both the butterfly effect and the snowflake effect restores courage in individuals to take action with hope. Yes, thank you, Donna Jacqueline, for that. The butterfly effect and the snowflake effect. Snowflake as in the last snowflake that breaks the bough of the tree, rather than all this snowflake bashing of millennials, I think is what's being said there. Eat with the local seasons. Good advice there. Kate, I would like to see more direct discussion of what is happening in Portugal regarding policy to counteract climate change and social injustices. All countries have suboptimal policy structures and Portugal is no exception. It's true. Even this Portuguese Pollyanna says that. Kate, invite them on the show and debate them. We will have those debates. We're moving towards that, where I think we have sufficient viewership to encourage politicians to come on, and then you can come on and grill them. Project Frugal. According to Al Gore, we should all be floating in the ocean several years ago. What went wrong? That's a good question. That's probably one for the forum, probably not one to open up now. But you make a very good point there, Vinny or Denise in New Zealand. Sorry, lots of spelling mistakes, but I'm basically saying what we do as individuals matters greatly, and there is a consequence for everything we do. Consider that. If you truly thought there was a consequence for every single thing you did, you would behave differently, would you not? Stephen Wells, great point. And that figure makes the true CO2 and water needed to produce that food. From George Ginger to Stephen there. Few more comments, folks. Forget lithium. Hydrogen is the answer. And he's got no investment in hydrogen.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Yep. Are you familiar with Michael Moore's 2019 film, Planet of the Humans? It does ask the question, how green is green? I agree 100% on renewables and organic food and a simple life and community. We don't need to fear climate change to understand that this is a better way to live. Absolutely. The circular economy will become part of change. Every company that makes products will have an obligation to recycle and reuse at the end of a product's useful life. I think they're good on that in Germany.
Can I just interrupt? I have a client call in 5 minutes and I'm going to have to duck out.
Go on, please chip in with your final word then. My
final word, I'd say a couple of things. There are gaps in awareness and there are gaps in action.
Yeah.
The topic is massive, but if we kind of really act on it, we can do it. We can do it. It's just a matter of individual and collective willingness. So that these are my conclusion. I'm really happy to play any further role, but I really need to escape. And I'm very glad, and I want to thank you for the invitation and say hi to everyone, and thank you to Doug, who's kind of got me up in the door there.
You're more than welcome. I'm actually quite proud that I've managed to instill this debate and encouraged Claire here, and hopefully many others will start thinking along the same lines.
Thank you, Claire. Pleasure
Thank
to
you,
meet you. And
everyone.
thank Claire D'Aberville, everybody. We'll speak to you again
Thanks,
soon,
Carl.
I'm sure. Take care.
Thanks,
ciao, ciao.
everyone. Bye.
À bientôt.
Bye.
Bye-bye, Claire.
À bientôt. Bonne journée.
Bonjour. Ciao, ciao. There she goes, Doug. Let's go through a few more of these comments and we'll come to you. Yes, you should be proud to stimulate this sort of discussion, Doug, and we'll give you the final word on this morning. Radical change takes education, and mass media are not helping and will never do so whilst their profit-driven owners, e.g. Murdoch, are given free rein. What is it, the description of the media that I heard by the spiritual speaker, Andrew Harvey? The media tells us we are sex-starved, hungry animals dying. Not a noble vision. I think he's absolutely right, though. A wake-up call for us is decluttering in order to move to Portugal. Yes, our footprint has been, tell me about it. Our footprint has been large, our home stuffed with never-used things. Don't forget to bring that yogurt maker with you and the spiralizer, Jim, when you come to Portugal. And our sadness, well, let it go, is palpable. Yeah, tricky process, Jim. I'm making light of it, but it is hard. Who remembers the film Interstellar? The possibility of that form of environmental catastrophe without the ability to escape through a black hole is fairly high. Well, thank you for that. We have been taught to live on a financial credit, cards and debt. We have unconsciously created is an ecological debt. Yes, that's a very interesting clue to our current consciousness, isn't it? Ecological debt, roll it down the hill, kick it down the street. Grandkids paying for our mistakes is too abstract. Humans may destroy, hi, good morning to you, Victoria, may destroy the environment that sustains them, but ultimately what does that say? Eat the twins. That's not a solution. I don't know what that is there, Victoria. That might be a typo. If you want to change people's behavior, just remove taxation on renewable energy as a start. If government was serious, they could introduce tax credits for people who invest in renewables at home. Absolutely, DJ. Don't ignore food's role in the loss of biodiversity. 70% of farmed land is used for growing livestock feed, and that land could be redeployed for more sustainable purposes. Lots of great insight this morning. Thanks, everybody. Jordinger, this doesn't need to be depressing. Huge opportunities to disrupt all industries and support modern advanced society without regressing. Need to put our heads together to solve this. Eco moonshot. Nice one, Jordinger. Back to Bitcoin uses more power than the country of Norway. Okay, that's not going anywhere, is it? Question for the gardening guy another day. Is no dig possible as a vegan, i.e. no animal manure? Yes, we'll move that to the right place. Nice shirt and tie, Doug. A little bit of a sartorial observation there. May I second that? Beautiful. Thank you, Claire, for your inspiring contribution there. Which Claire? Oh, Claire, of course. I thought it was in the comments. Yes, Claire D'Aberville, of course. The Earth wins, not eat the twins. The Earth, I think, will always win, right? And as Will Thompson says, nature bats last, which I find quite a chilling little reminder. But yes, nature will have the last word, of course, and we can collaborate or not. Bon dia. Carl impressed me again by delivering such diverse topics, says Rena Suslin. CC, climate change is my passionate topic, but I encourage everyone to make small changes at a time. Together we can make a big change. Thank you, Rena, and thank you for your comment on the show. So over to Doug for a final word here, as the instigator, the man recently back from the road to Damascus himself, metaphorically, with his change on this, and up in the metaphorical ancient oak, with the people with dogs on strings and up there in a climate camp. Hey, Doug.
Throwing acorns as well, actually. Now then, the thing, one of the things that resonated with me was somebody says that we've only got one world, and we basically, if you look at it like a fish tank, and it's been soiled daily by a massive population of goldfish, if you like, all doing their little whatever they do in the water, and it's just making it unbreathable and not a very nice place to be. And I don't know, I don't know whether you can pick up the article, and I think perhaps read out the final paragraph, which will sum it up very nicely.
I would be delighted.
And that would be a way to sort of summarize my feelings on the matter, which I hope to revisit in due course.
Yes, of course, and it's this Friday the sequel to the article comes out.
Yeah, the Portugal News is published every Friday, isn't it? I believe so. I believe. Yes. certainly before the weekend. Yeah.
Yeah, but shout out and big thanks to the Portugal News for being open-minded enough to host Doug as a guest writer there. Thank you all from Jim White coming in. Jacqueline says, victory goes to the creator of the earth as he makes all things new. Thank you for that, Donna Jacqueline. We can change, in my belief. Vote, consume and invest with our home, Earth's future in mind. Thank you, Kate. Since November, here's some action. I have not used any new plastic bags. Off any dairy for the whole family for 2 months. Been off meat for many years. If a hardcore meat-eating Mongolian can, anyone can. Do small changes. Nice one, Rena. Thanks all from Stephen as well. And I'm just putting the link in, and this is what I'm going to read to you. Doug's final couple of paragraphs, I think, to set the scene and send us on our way, inspired and in a mind to take action and just create a nicer world to be in for all of us, right? Isn't that the bottom line here, to use the financial metaphor? I may well have become a reformed climate change skeptic, says Doug in this article, but I'm afraid that I've developed a new form of skepticism instead. Now I question the collective sensibilities of our esteemed leaders as well as that of humanity in general. Fact is, we cannot really afford to get this one wrong. Not this time. Too much depends on us getting it right. Everything depends on it, actually. I've been looking at those fabulous new pictures sent back from planet Mars by NASA's Perseverance rover. And guess what? I don't think I'll be booking a trip with Elon Musk space tours anytime soon. From what I've seen, planet Mars isn't really all that much cop. It's kind of dead, and the pictures unnerve me somewhat. So as you said there, Doug, one planet, let's take care of it, look after it. It's not like we're going to be going to Mars anytime soon, as one of our 4 planets that we need to keep up with current consumption trends. Let's look after this one, and let's look after each other, and understand ourselves, understand each other, hear each other. Thank you, Doug. What a lovely man. There you go, from Donna Jacqueline.
Somebody loves me.
Many people do, Doug. We can do this, but we have to do it together, says Gary. Thank you, Gary. Food waste produces around 6 times more methane than cattle. It's time to refocus away from condemning meat eaters. Good point there. And a simple smiley face, a motif for us all to go to happily grasp the challenge that Doug has articulated here for us today. Doug, cheers. Thank you so much. And we will have you back, obviously, to talk more about this issue and check in and encourage everyone to keep going happily, positively, and create something we would be glad to hand on to not just our grandkids, but like generations. Yeah, have the Native American view of looking after this place like we care for 7 generations rather than just 1 or 2.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me on, Carl. It's been lovely.
Absolute pleasure. Take care, my friend. Bye for now. And lots of love to everybody watching this morning. We know what to do. Take care. Bye for now.
Bye for now.